Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson, and you're watching the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in with us here live today. If you're listening to us later on the podcast, don't forget the live show is much more fun. We've got a great interactive audience that joins us every day on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Rumble, on wakeupamericashow.com, and we used to stream on Twitter, but it appears that functionality no longer exists. Such a shame. We lose about 1,000 or so, almost 2,000 views from streaming on the platform every day because we do multi-stream to different social networks. But it appears that functionality is just disappeared. Sent a tweet this morning to Elon Musk. I know he's a little bit busy. Hopefully they'll get that sorted out and I'll get on whatever is an allow list to be allowed to be able to use the media producer. No idea. So if you usually watch us on Twitter, welcome. Hopefully you're watching us over on YouTube, where it's a great way for us to interact with our Cantina crew and the community of supporters for the show. Let's get into the news. OnlyScams? No, you won't get rich quick on OnlyFans. We're going to talk a little bit about the math behind the fool's gold rush at the top of the show. I found a great article and I can't wait to share with you some of the findings about it. At 7:18 this morning, I've got a couple of stories for you. One, I'm going to give you a brief sneak preview of my interview with Camellia Peterson. Camellia is going to be here with us for her first time on the show since we got back from vacation. I know you guys are excited to hear from CJ again, aren't you? Well, she'll be here with us at 8 o'clock to talk about the debacle that blew up yesterday involving Senator Mike Moon, who's been on the show a couple of times. He's a state senator here in the state of Missouri, for some of the comments that he made regarding 12-year-olds being allowed to get married. Yeah, child brides, essentially. I'm going to play the clip for you briefly at 7:20, just to kind of give you a little sneak preview of the conversation that Camellia and I are going to have. I'm sure it will be cringe-inducing, and she will turn chicken butt red like her lipstick. We'll talk about that with Camellia when she comes on here at 8 o'clock today. It'll be a great show. You don't want to miss that interview. But then at 7:20, after I play that clip for you and talk about it for a couple minutes, I want to talk about Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina running for president of the United States. Filed an exploratory committee yesterday. Are you more of a yay, this is a good thing, or are you more of a on the boo side of things? I'll let you know where I stand when we talk about that a little bit later this morning. And at 7:35 this morning, I'm excited to play this clip for you. Elon Musk absolutely torches this BBC interviewer talking to him about allowing Andrew Tate back on the platform, who is qualified to deal with misinformation. And Elon Musk turned the interview around on the BBC interviewer. It was, oh God, spicy stuff. I'm going to play the whole clip for you. We'll do a whole reaction for it at 7:30 this morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get Senator Mike Moon to join us in studio today. Apparently, he's doing some kind of breakfast deal where he's like cooking for people today. So he was going to be on the show, but unfortunately, I won't be able to get him. So maybe next week we'll have him, but don't forget, we do have Camellia at 8 o'clock. A woman who had $1,000 worth of groceries at a Target demanded reparations to get everything that she wanted to buy there at Target for free. Ended up trying to assault a security guard. Instead of reparations, she got a punch in the face. I've got the video for you. It's quite hilarious. We'll talk about that at 7:50 this morning. It sounds like it's going to be good content because I got Nathan over here laughing. At 8 o'clock today, don't forget, Camellia will be here to talk about child brides. At 8:23, NPR, National Public Radio, decided to quit Twitter after Elon Musk labeled them as state-affiliated media, which I gotta say, applause, hilarious. But in National Public Radio is...
How dare you?
Yeah, feeling very Greta Thunberg this morning. How dare you? How dare you, sir? Label us as state-affiliated media, yes. But it's in the name. National Public Radio. How many millions of dollars does this outlet get every year? Millions of dollars of taxpayer-funded dollars. That's what I would call state affiliate media. You know, the government isn't sending me any checks to produce the Wake Up America show. I have to beg you for it, the listeners and viewers every morning, to support me with monthly subscriptions or with purchases at apforlibertyshop.com. Wouldn't it be nice if the government were to just inject $8 million into the Wake Up America show and Stonegate Pictures LLC? Wouldn't that be nice? No? Would that be great? No, I think you guys would be more on the boo.
No, God!
Yeah.
No,
that wouldn't be right.
please, no!
It is.
No!
It is part of it is my taxpayer
No!
dollars as well. But yeah, National Public Radio. I shouldn't have to be taxed to pay for my competition. Because if you're listening to National Public Radio, you're not listening to the Wake Up America show. Not that people who really listen to National Public Radio would listen to the Wake Up America show, although there might be some crossover. There are a few liberals who are still liberals and not leftist communists. But we'll talk about that today. Who had the comment regrettable? Oh God, dude, that was funny. Quest Fanning. God, I love the Cantina crew in the mornings. I love a good, hot, juicy, juicy joke in the morning. Nice to have you here today with us. Guess who's joining us today at 8:30? I'm super excited. Daniella Pensac will be back. Pensac's back. All right. Oh my God, she's back again. Daniella Pensac will be joining us today at 8:30 to talk about I'm finally going to break the seal, if you will. P reference there for Bud Light. And talk about the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light scandal. I know.
No!
I've been trying to avoid it. I
God,
just
please,
didn't want to give
no!
this person
No!
any more attention
No!
than the Robbie Starbucks and the Daily Wires of the world keep giving them, because I'm so sick of hearing about this guy. Aren't you tired of it too? For God's sakes, the only reason that I'm talking about it now is because it is actual news. Conservative outrage itself is not news. It's money. It's profitable news for a lot of people. But in terms of news, the actual news has happened now. Bud Light has lost $5 billion worth of value. That is actual news and something that we will talk about and report on this morning. So yeah, sorry about that. I hate to do it to you, but we will talk about that. $5 billion. Oh. And Joe Biden declares the COVID emergency over, much to the dismay of Democrats. I'm feeling quite.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
That's correct. And then at the end of the show today, I didn't get to finish my article yesterday talking about whether cats were more libertarian than dogs. I only got to make the case for why cats were more libertarian, and I didn't get to make the case for dogs. And as a dog owner and a dog supremacist, much to, I'm sure, Chris Morrell's chagrin, I will say that today is the day for dogs. We're going to talk about why dogs are more libertarian than cats, and that's going to be at the end of the show. You don't want to miss it. Do you like how I set it up and roll out the show just like that? Get you all ready for what we're going to talk about today? All right, let's get juicy. All right, it's time to talk about the big story today. You won't get rich on OnlyFans. Let's talk about the math behind the fool's gold rush. An article published on evmagazine.com I thought had some interesting insights on people who were thinking about taking nudie pics and posting them online. I saw a tweet from somebody yesterday who said, don't call them content. You're not a content creator on OnlyFans. You're somebody who sells nude photographs online, right? We're content creators over here. We actually, although I have been tempted to post nudes, honestly, because don't you think I would get a lot more interaction if I were posting? Stephanie was actually recommending that today because we've got a brand new item coming at AP for Liberty Shops, a new 3D printed item that's coming. And when my robe, I was getting ready for school this morning, and my robe came open, and I was just standing there naked as the day I was born. And Stephanie was like, and I was holding the 3D printed object, and Stephanie was like, "You should just take a picture of you like that, naked with the thing, and try and sell it that way." I'm like, I don't think it would have the same effect. Although maybe some conservative influencers would talk about me and be like, "Oh, he's such a degenerate," and then they would talk about me 24 hours a day because I was such a degenerate. Anyways, so the idea that OnlyFans is a get rich quick pass is kind of common knowledge. If you're online now, you'll see a lot of girls on podcasts and streams. If you're not watching them, I do, but for your pleasure, so you don't have to. But the fact is that it's really not the get rich quick scheme that a lot of people are advertising it as. And it's kind of a joke too in the red pilled community that women live life on easy mode because they can take nude photographs of themselves and just become a millionaire in a short amount of time. And that is true for a very, very, very small amount of women. And they're usually the ones that you see in like the New York Post articles where it's like, OnlyFans mom has kids kicked out of school because, the other women are jealous. The other like wives are jealous and their husbands are like subscribing to her OnlyFans accounts and things like that. And whenever they get those kinds of articles, those controversies started up in their small towns, if the New York Post writes about it, then they're going to start making real bank, right? Because there are some women who are making $350,000 paychecks, not going to lie, right? But they represent a very, very tiny percentage of content creators on OnlyFans. And most of those women were already famous to begin with, right? But the fact is that the other women who aren't famous and who are making money on OnlyFans are making it through a pyramid scheme. Here, let me explain, right? So some of these women will get $50,000 payouts for if they recruit additional C-list celebrities. So Tara Lynn is this woman, she's an influencer explaining about how she grew her OnlyFans income. I mean, she already had hundreds of thousands of followers on social media before she started doing the digital sex work, right? I'm sorry to have such a PG-13 topic so early in the morning, but hopefully it doesn't turn you off. Well, or maybe it'll turn you on. Porn is cringe. Embrace sobriety, says Pilgrim2397. I'll give you my thoughts on pornography itself at the end of this segment. But first, let me go ahead and go to my Twitter weirdness scene and share this clip with you from this creator, Tara Lynn, talking about how much money she makes. Okay, maybe I need to turn on the audio. Let's refresh and audio. There we go. Oh, it's not going to play audio. Why? Isn't that nice? Don't you? Oh, wait, that's why, because it's muted. Let's do it again. One more time, guys. What do you say? All right. It's a live show.
OnlyFans.
Drop it.
Drop
Come
it.
on
Come on,
now.
drop it.
I made,
How much money?
like so I started May 2021.
Did you do like a hard launch?
First of all, not to be rude, but this girl's a 6. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Yep.
On a good day.
Until like October, this past October, I would
Solid 5.
make like 100 to 150K a month.
God.
And then I made it a TikTok. So, you guys know Anna Paul, obviously.
Yes.
So she made this TikTok of her
Obviously, yes. No idea who these people are.
filming a day in her life as an
I
OnlyFans
saw that.
creator. And she started it off with so I'm a sex worker. And I was like, oh, that's great. And, probably it had so many views. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I want to do that. So I made a vlog, and I started it off with that. And I vlogged me getting ready for my OnlyFans shoot. And it did so fucking well, in October, this past October. So now it's like 350 a month. It's insane.
Are you
crazy.
serious? What do you
crazy.
Well, I guess you go to Harry Styles concerts. What else do
Yeah.
you do with all this fucking money?
I just travel.
Cruises?
Yeah, I just
Cruises are cheap, bro.
Cruises are mad cheap.
Yeah. So how much?
Yeah, cruises aren't that cheap, not for everybody, but yeah, so $350,000 a month. But is she making $350,000 a month by posting photographs of herself? No, she's out there recruiting other women into OnlyFans. So that's the pyramid scheme part of this, right? Taking naked photos wasn't the hard part of all this. Gaining the massive following was, right? But the question really is why are women buying these misleading sales pitches, right? So let's do the math and talk about the real numbers. So if you make about $2,500 a month on OnlyFans, that will put you in the top 1% of OnlyFans creators. Now, $2,500 a month, that might sound like a lot of money, but consider that $2,500 a month, that adds up to about $15 an hour, and that's all pre-tax. So in other words, you'd be making the same amount working at Chipotle's, right? Or, for a lot of people, that's like a starter job, right? So that's the top 1% of creators, right? Think about that, right? Top 1%. You think, oh, wow, that's amazing. You're in the top 1%. Well, you're making $2,500 a month. It's actually more likely that a college football player makes it to the NFL. It's more likely that a college football player makes it to the NFL than it is for an OnlyFans creator to make as much as you can make working at Chipotle, right? OnlyFans as a platform has more than 1 million registered creators. What do most of those creators earn? Guess what? It's $180 a month, right? And since like famous creators like this Tara Lynn woman are pulling up that average, most creators are actually making a lot less than that. $180, that's a pretty rude wake-up call, right? And now, is that decent money for a side gig? Not really, because you should be prepared for it to become your full-time job. And here's why. Because OnlyFans content is not passive income. It's not like some things where, so like AP for libertyshop.com, it requires some maintenance. But like last night while I was sleeping, somebody bought a few t-shirts. Okay. That's money that is earned while you're sleeping. So that would typically, that's almost what you might consider a passive income to an extent, right? But you can't do that with OnlyFans. In order to earn, you have to be constantly generating content in order for you to not lose subscribers. Um, it's not a part-time thing because a lot of content creators also too have their content pirated and then it's posted on other websites and you don't earn any money from that at all. So you have to keep producing to keep the stream going. And then you also don't have any real control over who sees this, right? And it's not a harmless side gig. When women who think that they're flying under the radar doing this are getting fired again and again and again. And it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble. I mean, it is the gamble of a lifetime. I don't know if it's worse odds than craps in a casino, but you are basically talking about casino style odds to be able to do something like this and make it your full-time job. But if you do it even a little bit, you have to be prepared to make it your full-time job because you're going to lose your full-time job more than likely. You're going to have a hard time working in, I will say, respectable careers. Some people say that sex work is not respectable. Some people say it is respectable. I haven't given my opinion on that just yet because, as you know, I'm a libertarian. I will get there in just a moment, right? So sex work, even in the rare case that it becomes a well-paying gig, has a very short horizon without the same kind of future that you might have at a regular job. Consider that when you do something like that, there is a time limit on how long you can do that for. The number of people who do that successfully is casino odds, and then the number of people who do it successfully and then continue in that profession beyond their years of, what would you call it? The beauty years, the beautiful year, the years when people are going to be, attracted to you for what it is that you're selling there. That's going to disqualify you for future jobs and put you in danger. You have to be successful at a young age, more than just the top 1% of creators on that website, or you've really put yourself in a lot of trouble, right? And listen, this is not me I'm not slut shaming here, right? So sex work is traumatizing for everybody that's involved with it. And OnlyFans and platforms like this have become havens for things like sex trafficking and child exploitation, and it can have very serious long-term consequences for the creators who end up, stalked, harassed, sometimes abused, right? You can't just post photos of yourself and expect to rake in the money. You're going to be expected to constantly interact. You're going to be harassed more intensely than you probably can imagine, and you'll be pressured to perform acts that you probably never knew existed by people who are caught in the throes of their own addictions, right? People that you would never want to spend one single second with outside of the context of OnlyFans. You're going to get called names. You're going to be criticized, right? It's not just harassment, it's abuse, right? There is a cost that will extend to other parts of your personal life too, right? Some OnlyFans creators say that they're confused by men who compliment them but refuse to be romantic even long after they've left their side gig, right? So once it's over, it's going to be difficult for you to have a normal relationship, a normal, healthy relationship with a significant other. Typically, not for everybody, again, but let's talk about the problem sometimes with conversations like these is that people will focus on the exceptions to the rule rather than the rule. And I think it's important for us to focus on the rule rather than the exception, because exceptions are exceptions for a reason. But I will say that I do think that if you're talking about in the context of heterosexual relationships, a man and a woman, then I do think that the majority of men, not all men, but the majority of men, at least quality men that you would want for a long-term relationship, professionally as well, Now, when I was at the debate in Maryland, now I'll offer you my viewpoint on this, my political personal opinion on this one. I'll say this: last month or a month and a half ago, when I was in Maryland for the debate in Baltimore, someone actually approached me with a question after the debate was over to ask my opinions about sex work. And of course, as a libertarian, I do think that people who own their lives and their bodies ought to be able to do with it as they see fit, provided that they harm no one else. But I did say that I do think that there is a toll that is paid for by people who engage in the sex work industry on any level. But in regards to like prostitution, for example, while I do think that it should be legal, I will say that I think that it's not advisable. Just like I don't think that you should do heroin, I still think that it should be legal for consenting adults. Just because I think, alcohol should be legal doesn't mean that I think that you need to be, going out and getting drunk every weekend, right? It's bad for your health. Cigarette smoking, I think, should be legal, but it's bad for your health, and I don't advise it. But specifically when it comes to sex work, because of the penchant for sex trafficking, because of the danger that's involved to people, mostly women, in this industry, I do think that it should be legalized and regulated, meaning that we should ensure that people who are engaging in this business are not being trafficked and not being because that is slavery, and slavery, of course, is the most anti-libertarian thing that you can get. And just like when it comes to the war on drugs, when I was talking about fentanyl yesterday in regards to Elon Musk saying it should be legal, right? The idea is that by bringing it into the light and being able to have public conversations and being able to have studies and tests done, we can create a healthier environment for people who are going to engage in vices that I don't think that they should be engaging in, right? But the reality is that we have to deal with these problems as they are, not as we would like them to be. And is every woman who's engaging in prostitution being sex trafficked or being abused, right? No, not all of them. Probably the majority of them, at least, are being abused on some level. But yes, there are women who, have sugar daddies and, make $1 million a year and make bank as prostitutes, and they're not all being abused or exploited. They're women who are making their own money with their own body, and there are male gigolos too who engage in those business, and and they are typically the exception, though, and not the rule. It's important for us to be able to protect people from slavery, from sex trafficking, from real abuse and harassment and stalking. And I do think that bringing that into the light of day is a way to help solve some of those problems. I don't think you'll ever fully solve it because I don't believe in utopia, despite what a lot of people say. Oh, libertarians, you live in this pie in the sky, you live in this utopia, right? I don't live in utopia. I don't believe that there is a perfect world. I think there is only a better world than the world that we have. And sometimes things will actually get worse before they get better. For example, I think that when Portugal decriminalized all drugs, including hard drugs, things actually got worse for a little while. I think, now that we're legalizing marijuana in certain states, they're having problems with it. I think the state of New York, for example, was reading yesterday, is having big problems with the legalization of cannabis. And street dealers just selling it on the street on tables and things, which, again, I'm not, as a free market capitalist, as someone who thinks weed should be legal, I'm not necessarily saying that shouldn't happen. But of course, there are problems when you don't have an eye on the abuses that are happening in systems that inherently are tied to vices. And of course, we should be discouraging vices in our society, in my opinion, as a cultural thing, and not have the government step in and regulate it. Families, friends, neighbors, and churches need to step in and take over the role of what you might say policing of morality, if you will. Morality has to come from within. Morality is a personal decision. It cannot be forced on you by the community. If morality could be forced on people, it could be forced on individuals, then we wouldn't have crime. See, the problem with when it comes to governance is that individuals making their own individual choices are ultimately free to make to make choices, even if they're bad decisions. When those bad decisions impinge on other people directly, call it through force or through fraud, then that person has to be regulated and or imprisoned, if you will, right? But when someone is engaging in self-harm, and that self-harm is not protracted out to the community, at that point in time, if the community cares about the person, which we see a lot of homeless people out there, it's quite obvious that many in the community don't care about a lot of people. But when the community cares about that person and wants to ensure the safety and the health and the well-being of that person, then the community needs to step up and needs to voluntarily interact with that person to ensure that they are protected. When we were at the airport coming in from Japan, for example, I saw signs that were up that said, that were like secret, messages to people who might be being trafficked internationally, as a way to help them, to secure them in case they are, being forced through customs and immigration to sex traffic them. And I think that that's a good thing, right? We need to find ways to ensure that people are being protected from predators in the world, because there are predators in the world. And because the world is individualistic, no matter what communists or socialists or any other collectivist ideology believes, we have to have a system and a society that allows individual expression and freedom and behaviors to the extent that they don't cause deleterious violence, force, fraud, again, onto the community. What are your thoughts about this one? I kind of went on a rant there. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send us send us a text today at 573-319-1586. The text lines are open today. You can send in your thoughts at 573-319-1586. Yeah, Chris Morrill, you're right. This kind of talk isn't welcome on many conservative radio stations. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, this topic here. Mike Moscato says, or Mike Musk says, can't abuse these chicks unless it's physical abuse. They make their choice. Yeah, to an extent. He says, it's not respectable. Trading in dignity for cash is nasty. Well, some people say that I've traded in my dignity for cash, for example, for what I do. I did think it's hilarious, some of the pushback that I get for my content that I create and for the products that I sell at apforlibertyshop.com. People are like, oh, I miss when you weren't selling cheap products and blah, blah, blah. Well, what's funny is what they're saying is that they actually miss me when I was a politician, which would have made me a sponge on taxpayers, essentially. A politic, right? Poly meaning many and tick being a bloodsucker. Right now, I'm an honest meme dealer, and salesman of what I think are not actually cheap products. A lot of the products that I make are made by me in my shop. My wife and I work on them together to make them very nice. And if you've ever bought anything from apforlibertyshop.com, I think you would know that the quality of the products that we sell are very high. The keychains that we sell are very high quality products and things like that. But people are like, oh, well, it's cheap products and all this kind of stuff. Well, I mean, if it's so cheap, then you could afford a lot of it, right? All right, gotta go. Take a little commercial break. I've been going on and on and on. I want to play Elon Musk's torching of the BBC interview for you when I get back. It's such good stuff. It's gonna burn. It's gonna melt the stream down. I wouldn't be surprised if everything just melts down to its absolute core, because it's spicy. I'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Grateful to have you here watching the program. If you're watching us on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, or Facebook, make sure you click like on that stream so that we can help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Glad to have you here. I guess I didn't realize that I had so much to say about OnlyFans content and creators until I read that article yesterday about just how little money the women who work on that website actually make. It's pretty yikes. If you missed it and you're just tuning into the show right now, you can back up the stream if you're watching us on certain networks like YouTube, or definitely make sure that you bookmark that and come back later and listen to it, because honestly I felt like that was some of my best work. What do you think? Oh, they like me. They really like me. So glad to have you here today. All right, Elon Musk absolutely torched this interviewer from the BBC who sat down to talk about misinformation policies on Twitter. It's so good. We're just going to sit here and we're going to do a react video live. What do you say? Take a listen.
It's meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant.
Boom. Good God. It starts off beautifully. So Elon answers a question to, why he allowed people like Andrew Tate or people that he disagrees with on. He's like, free speech means nothing if you're not protecting the views of people that you disagree with saying things that you hate. That is the definition of free speech. Very few people actually believe that, though. You'll get a lot of people who will say that they do, but in practice, most people actually don't. Let's hear that again and continue.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back, who were previously banned for things like hate speech. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Dude, such a bold, question on there. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech? Did you not listen to what the guy just said? Because he answered your question already, and yet you ask another stupid question like this. What are you trying to get him to say? See the BBC reporter, and I've seen this in corporate journalist circles that I've run in, is that these reporters what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to say something stupid. They're not really trying to get a story or to produce a fascinating interview. They're trying to play gotcha. And that's how you know that the BBC and so many of these other organizations are fake news. They're there to push an agenda. They're not. That's why I laugh whenever I see liberals saying Fox News. I saw Fox what was it? Air quotes. Fox News parentheses quotes. There we go. Yes, quotation marks. Fox News in quotation marks and stuff. And I'm just like, what do you think? What is the Associated Press? What is USA Today? What is NBC News, MSNBC? What is the Washington Post? What is the New York Times? Are those news? You think that those are news? Guess what? I've got an article from the Associated Press I'm going to read today about Senator Tim Scott running for president of the United States, and I'm going to be able to point out the propaganda sentence right in it, and it purports itself to be a journalistic outfit. The BBC is state-affiliated media, just like NPR. All right, let's go, Austin. Shut up. Let the man talk.
Well, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC?
Ooh. You're literally asking me.
Yeah.
You're literally asking me. And the only reason reporter said that, because he was not ready to be able to answer that question. He was thinking that he was on the offensive, and then all of a sudden he's on the defensive. He didn't have an answer for that, so he answered a question with a question because he's tap dancing for time. He's tap dancing. Don't you love it when these reporters get out there and tap dance? Oh, God, this is juicy, man. Good stuff. And it gets better, and it gets more heated. Let's continue.
Well, no, you are the arbiter on Twitter, because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying, who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? The point at which you say that there is, this is misinformation, who is going to decide that? But you accept that
misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause real-world harms, that it can potentially cause...
Yes, and the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false.
Right.
Do you agree?
I love it. I love that he just has the pregnant pause there. Elon, I know that he's autistic, but he is good with social cues. I mean, I don't think he's as autistic as maybe some people like to think, but what he did there with that pregnant pause, after he said the BBC has at times published things that are false, and then he just lets it sit there. I mean, let me just back it up for a moment. Back it up. Let's back it up. Continue. This is so good.
Published things that are false.
Listen. And the nod. It's so good. And the reporter, wait a minute. One more time.
I'm making is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true.
Correct.
In its, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes. Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
We've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what
something
hate
that you
speech
want
are you
to
talking
address?
about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
just a personal anecdote. Like, what do you? I don't.
Personally, my for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit.
But now watch this. Elon Musk said, get him to say the N-word. Oh my God. Is this good or what? Are you enjoying this? Ooh, let's give Elon. It's only like 2 minutes, 20 seconds in so far, and I need a cigarette after this. All right. Just beautiful. Love how he circles around to hate speech, says Joni Rankin. Yes, absolutely. We need to give Elon Musk the gig. Andy Opperman, nice to see you all here today. Glad to have you here on the show. Let's continue this.
Reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist.
Back it up just a little bit.
In that, I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
Dude, all right. So what was it, like 3 weeks ago or something like that? Everybody, the left pounced on conservatives for like not being able to define the word woke. This guy, we should pounce on this reporter for not being able to define hate speech, of which he's saying needs to be banned and censored online. Is this good stuff or what? I mean, what a great way to start the day. Are you loving the Wake Up America show today? Because honestly, I'm feeling it. Let's continue.
Do you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. Yes. I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
said a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
My
you said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
This is wow. I love this kind of stuff, man. The interviewer turns it around. Becomes the interviewee turns it around and becomes the interviewer. Oh man, I am loving it. Stuff. Andy Opperman says, "I'm hitting it out of the park today." Yeah, I'm feeling it. Oh, yes. Oh, God, I'm feeling great. How about you? Make sure that if you're enjoying the show today, that you click like on the stream to help us spread the message of freedom. And let's continue this awesome interview.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying...
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about. Oh. Hit all of the buttons. Hit all of the buttons on there. Oh. Yes, that's how we feel about it. God, hit all the buttons often.
FBI, open up!
Okay, not that button. Okay.
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet. And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
No, what I claimed was...
Just lied. This reporter inside his internal monologue right now.
Oh, God! No, God, please, no! No!
He's like, this is how he feels.
There are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, I mean, right? And
literally
you can look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation.
Okay, pause. I got to give a shout out to Elizabeth Press. Thank you for the super chat. We are always super grateful for the super chats. Domo arigato. We appreciate that very much. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. Yeah, we appreciate that very much. This is so much fun. Pilgrim2397, who I think is new to this stream. Let's welcome him. Welcome, Pilgrim. Glad to see you here. Says it almost feels dirty seeing this guy get destroyed on camera. Please use thick comment in context. Not quite sure what you mean by that, Pilgrim. So I think I missed the thick comment. I was enjoying this beatdown. I mean, I know Camellia is over there getting all hot this morning, watching this go down. It is quite juicy. We're almost done.
Amazing.
You've changed the COVID misinformation.
Has BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about...
Dude, it's... God. Oh, the art of conversation. So the pregnant pause. I don't want to go into too long of a rant on this, but I will just say that in terms of being able to dominate a conversation, knowing when to shut up is one of the most important tools in a conversationist toolkit. Leaving something there, it's something you learn in sales as well. Like, say, if you've ever done telephone sales, you get on the phone, you have the potential client, you're trying to get the sale, you ask them for something, and the hardest thing in the world to do is wait for them to say yes or no, right? That is the hardest thing in the world, because you want to keep talking and stuff like that, and if you feel like there's a break in the conversation, you want to try and fill it in. Elon knows he doesn't have to do that. He's making the sale all day long. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Let's continue.
You changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, and then it disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue.
It's also not only is, sorry to keep stopping this, but not only is it important to pause after you say something, it's important to pause after you hear something. And this is something frequently that lawyers will do. If you know anybody who's practicing in law, if you ask somebody who's a lawyer a question, or say something that would, necessitate a response, then a lawyer will typically pause, think about what it is that they want to say, and then respond. Versus what most people do, which is if you ask someone a question, they'll immediately start dialoguing with you and answering you. Elon doesn't do this. He thinks about what he wants to say, and then he answers. It's perfectly fine to wait to respond to someone's answers. Let's hear it again.
Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all?
You want to hear that? You want to hear this? The Giga Chad soundtrack. Let me back it up so you can hear this.
An issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the BBC?
You too.
All right, let's talk about.
Oh my God, so good. Ooh, I need a cigarette. Whoa. I haven't smoked in years, but I would probably crack one open now, even with my mild form of asthma. I've got to go to commercial break because I just got to go. I gotta go to the bathroom and clean up. I know it's a little bit too PG-13 this morning, the topics of the show, but I can't help it. We're just having too much darn fun today. It's a great show. It's 7:51. We will talk about a Target security guard punches a customer in the face after she demanded reparations. But wait, there's more to the story when we return on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamericashow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching, listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. How are we doing so far? I feel good. Thanks so much to our friend Studio for the super chat. We super appreciate that. It helps us to grow the show and to build out the future of economic freedom and personal liberty from our awesome website. So thanks so much for supporting us. Anybody who's a monthly subscriber, I just want to say big shout out again to people who are our monthly subs and people who have been making donations and buying from apforlibertyshop.com. You know, it's not a huge millions and millions of people audience, but it's a small committed group of supporters who are continuing to keep this show and this message alive. What we do here is unique. The message that we spread here is very unique. Sure, there are some other people who are like us, but there's nobody just like us. And I know that you appreciate that with your financial support of the show. I just want you to know how grateful myself, my wife, Stephanie, and of course our friend here, Nathan, who's joining us, who's been working diligently to help create content for you and to help grow out the next phase of the Wake Up America show, which I hope in the medium and long term turns into better, longer form content and more people getting interested in these ideas that you and I share, these ideas in limited government and personal liberty. All right. Okay, reparations, as it turns out, something that libertarians probably not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of myself. Target's security guard punched a customer during a confrontation that was sparked when she asked for reparations while she was in a checkout line. She had more than $1,000 in groceries at a Target megastore in Blue Ash, Ohio. She got more than she bargained for. I do want to apologize for the techno music that plays in the background of this video. I like techno music. I know most people don't. It's a little early for it, so I apologize. It's going to be a little bit weird. But here she is. You can see her.
A security staff member intervened and told the suspect to calm down before the suspect began backing him into the security office while screaming.
Yeah, actually, you can't see it because of the way that I've flipped that. Let me fix this for you so that you can actually see it. That's what happens when you do a show live, my ladies and my gents. There we go. See the circle on the right-hand side of that screen? There we go. Watch.
A security staff member intervened and told the suspect to calm down before the suspect began backing him into the security office while screaming.
Blue Ash, Ohio.
Inside the office, the security staff member punched the suspect in self-defense.
Boom! Damn! And now, I don't know if Ohio is a stand your ground state or what have you, but I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this one if you're able to watch it, if you're not just listening and you can see what just went down. So she backs him. She's screaming. She's demanding a reparations. She wants $1,000 worth of groceries for free from Target, I guess. And you can see now how toxic the ideology of reparations has become, that it's infected the minds of people like this such that they actually behave like this. I mean, this is how you know leftism is not it's one thing, free speech, yes, fine, you know, communists, you know, can have their opinions about communism, but you could see how these kinds of viewpoints manifest themselves into the real world in violent ways, not just like this, but Antifa and how they burned down our cities during the coronavirus pandemic, the Black Lives Matter protests, if you will. I hesitate to call them that, more like riots. But here you see a woman who has been brainwashed into thinking that she could just demand racial reparations at a Target checkout and get $1,000. I mean, I honestly, I don't see anything wrong with what he did here. I know a lot of people will disagree, though. Let's watch it again one more time here. And
Inside the office.
So she kind of backs him into a corner in his office. He keeps backing away until he can't really back away anymore.
A security staff member punched the suspect in self-defense and then called the police.
I think it's justifiable, especially, and a lot of other people do too, because you never know. Maybe she's got a knife in her purse, right? As soon as she gets into a reasonable range, you got to expect that people will surprise you. You think, oh, she's just a woman, blah blah blah. But I mean, a woman can stab you just as easily as a man can. Dang, I wish I could continue to discuss this, but Camellia is supposed to be on the show like right now, so that means I got to go to a real quick commercial.
Website to boost your business. You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President, Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Child brides. So can a child legally consent to get married to an adult? Well, you might say, no, that sounds ridiculous. Children can't consent to marriage. Child brides is something that the Taliban does. We don't do that here in the United States. Well, some people think, well, I guess we do it here in the United States in some cases, and there are some people who actually agree with it. I play this very odd clip for you from a hearing in the Missouri State Senate yesterday. Take a listen to this.
I've heard you talk about parents' rights to raise their kids how they want. In fact, I just double-checked. You voted no on making it illegal for kids to be married to adults at the age of 12 if their parents consented to it. You said actually that should be the law because it's the parents' right and the kids' right to decide what's best for them, to be raped by an adult. Okay?
Do you know kids who have been
With
married
marriage.
at age 12?
That was the law.
Do you know
You
any
voted
kids-
not to change it.
Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12?
I don't need to.
I do. And guess what? They're still married.
Gentlemen.
Do you know any kids people who were married at age 12? Mike Moon says, I do, and they're still married. What the hell? Joining me now to discuss this in today's WTF segment is Camellia Peterson with a interesting choice of background today. Will she or won't she? Hey, CJ, what's up?
Good morning. It's like, why does it always happen this way on the right? It's like, you've got choices to make. Do you say something? Do you say how you really feel, or do you get your bill passed? Do you torpedo child, laws banning child mutilation, or do you, talk about your what principles? I don't know anymore.
Child brides. We went from working on what I believe is they were working on the legislation to ban transgender surgery for minors. Is that what this was?
Right. Yes, we're almost there. Like we're very close to getting this done.
Okay, so set this up for us. What happened here? Why are we talking about this?
So apparently this is in a committee hearing on having to do with Senator Moon's bill for banning transgender transition surgeries for minors, which is something that's been a big deal in Missouri. It's versions have passed in the Senate, and then we've also, it's working its way through the House. We're almost there. But apparently during this committee hearing, somebody from the other side of the aisle brought up a past issue where Missouri had actually passed legislation to raise the child marriage age from 15 to 16. And which, okay. And I think up to 18, maybe you had to have parental consent, as it should be. So he brought up the fact that at the time that Mike Moon had apparently talked about not having problems with 12-year-olds getting married because he knew somebody who had been married at 12 years old, and it worked out. And so rather than kind of, sidestep that and try to get past that, Senator Moon proceeded to kind of double down on it. And it just is like, there is no winning in that. It only gets worse. And he went on to clarify, on Twitter, which honestly is an even bigger mistake. And said that, well, the situation was, people don't know the context, and the situation was that a 12-year-old impregnated another 12-year-old, and so therefore they had to get married, and they're still happily married today. You said something earlier about focusing on the exceptions to the rule, and boy, is this ever an exception to the rule. And there's just so many things wrong with this. It's hard to know where to start.
Okay, yeah. So Jesus, there's so much wrong with this one. Okay. So we have to kind of break this apart because I know that it's kind of got a blanket issue here, but he's getting grilled. Senator Mike Moon, who I tried to get him on the show today, but he was like cooking breakfast for people, he said, or something like that. I don't know. Legislators do weird things. But I guess I expected him to come on here today and defend what he said. But the problem is that the question that was kind of being asked to him was it being an adult, that a 12-year-old could marry an adult? At least that's the way that the question was posed to him. And he seemed Mike seemed to kind of answer in the affirmative, which was honestly pretty, can I curse for just a moment, but fucking weird.
Right. And I think that people like the senator who go back to these arguments, well, things used to be done this way. And 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, at one point in history, it was not entirely, I don't know how common it was necessarily, but it did happen where very young girls would marry older men. And I'm sorry, we have progressed. There's lots of things that used to be done that we don't do now for very good reasons.
Okay, so yeah, obviously. I mean, we used to have child sacrifice, right? We used to take virgins to the top of pyramids and cut their organs out in front of everybody and put their heads on zompant lees. And, now we dig them up and out in the jungles of South America. But the thing is that when it's 12 years old and 12 years old, that is the exception to the rule. And I guess get married. I mean, if you get, do they get married? I mean, my concern with that, if it's 12-year-olds, one gets the other 12-year-old pregnant, my concern with that is that I think that it seems as if the pressure to get married is not happening between the kids. The pressure to get married in that scenario is probably coming down from above. That might be that might be problematic, Camellia.
Yes, and I think where this is just, it's so bad in this particular context because we are talking about the fact that children cannot consent to have things done to them that have very permanent, damaging, long-lasting effects in their lives. And, in transition surgeries, there are parents who are who are encouraging this to be done for their children. It's not always, it's not always the kids wanting this. And so if we're talking about that, we are doing this because we're protecting children from harm, and that includes even in spite of consent from parents. It doesn't matter if parents consent to, child mutilation. It's still abuse. It's still harm done to those children, and it should not be done. And in the same way, when you're talking about children getting married, that's, maybe there's some differences there in the physical aspects of it, but we're still talking about huge impact on your life. And that just, we should seriously pause
It's just
before we
it's just
say.
unfortunate because what this has done is, unfortunately, now it's distracted us from the real fight, like you're
Yes.
talking about here, which is preventing child mutilation, which is tangentially related to this one, and it is certainly something that needs more discussion. But I'm afraid that the fact is that we've got to chase the story here in the news business, and this is what it is. This is news, so we've got to discuss it. Andy Opperman over in the live stream had an interesting comment. He says, my great grandmother, born 1912, married 1925. So I guess that would have made her 14 years old or something like that. She stayed married to my great grandfather until his death in the 1960s. Okay, but in 1925, didn't like most people die from tuberculosis at age 50 or something like that? So I mean, the problem is that people want to try and apply the standards of today, to like bygone eras, and it's not just about like oh, we used to do child sacrifices, but I mean the fact is that maybe I'm wrong. Are we maturing earlier? Because people keep saying that kids are good at maturing faster, but we also sort of delay adulthood in another way. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here, Camellia, but I mean, it's maybe there are plenty of times you and I have had conversations where we're like, we need to stop infantilizing adults, and we need to like, let kids get jobs and send them to work in the copper mines. Okay, that was me yesterday, but I mean, how do we strike a balance here?
Sure. And I do think that it is, I mean, this is a social standard that's set. It's not always, there's not necessarily always a clear moral line. And sometimes those moral lines are set by what is socially acceptable. And I think that's what we see now. It was socially acceptable 100 years ago for girls to marry younger, but lots of things were different. I think historically children were forced to mature much quicker. They had more responsibilities. There was much less education. I mean, these girls at the time, education wasn't an option for a lot of them. So they had very few choices in life. And, for a lot of times for women, basically your choice as you got older was to get married or not to get married. And you needed to have somebody to provide for you. So the context was very, very different at the time. And it's not at all, we cannot make decisions about what is good for children now based on what might have been the norm or what might have worked 100 years ago. It just doesn't work. I mean, there's too much science now, and for whatever reason, I don't care what the reasons are, but there's too much science now that shows that children just developmentally are not ready for that. We see the effects of how it impacts people psychologically in their lives when they do these kind of things so young. So yeah, it's just.
You're just tuning into the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to my friend, not my relative or wife or whatever, related in any way, Camellia Peterson. She is S-O-N and I'm an S-E-N. We're glad to have Camellia here today. We're talking about a story that broke yesterday after Missouri State Senator Mike Moon made headlines for proposing the concept of 12-year-olds getting married. I don't think he proposed the concept of 12-year-olds getting married to adults, but it was proposed to him, and he sort of extolled the virtues of a 12-year-old who got married. And this situation that you're talking about with Mike Moon, is this the same one where it was a 12-year-old who married another 12-year-old? It wasn't the one where it was a 12-year-old to an adult, or right?
Correct. I think the scenario he is talking about was two minors. But, the idea that is just this is usually an issue in the Libertarian Party, right?
Right. Yeah. Age of
So
consent.
it's like, and even that is, even that I would not necessarily say is mainstream LP or libertarianism.
Right.
That's even that is still on the fringes. So I think it's this trouble where Mike Moon is a good senator.
He's a very good senator.
Great principles. It just is. We need more like him, to be honest. But it's just this thing where you have to know when to just not talk about stuff like that, and when keep your really unpopular opinions. And unfortunately, now this is something where he and I would vastly diverge in principle on, is that he actually, when that bill came up to raise the age of marriage for children, he voted against that. And I think that
is that what he was?
truly,
So that's what he was getting asked about, was that he didn't vote to outlaw
yeah,
it. I mean,
right.
I seem to think that, from what I'm able to read in Mike Moon's opinion on this and what I know of him, that he thinks that it's okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that would be an opinion he holds that I would vehemently disagree with.
It's kind of like a Southwest Missouri redneck kind of thing, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about like you're so close to Arkansas that you're almost, kissing cousins in a way. It's very, I don't know. I guess I like Mike, but I mean, just think that's backwards as shit.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no getting around that.
Isn't
That's
he
the
your senator?
bottom
Don't you
line.
come from that? Don't you live in that area, Camellia?
I am in this area. He's actually not my senator in this area. That's Senator Joel Carter, but he's the neighboring district over,
Jeez,
not far
man.
away.
Now imagine, because he ran for Congress against Eric Burlison, who's our congressman now. Imagine if he was in a federal. It's one thing to get the Springfield News Leader writing an article about it and so Kansas City Star. Imagine if he had said that in like federal Congress. They'd had that kind of debate. What that would have been like. It would have been a little rough for us here in Missouri, because we've been getting a string of wins lately, and I think I'd put that in the L column.
Yes. Yeah, that would not have been good, as even, well, we will get national attention for this if it hasn't started already. I think we can be pretty much guaranteed this will hit national news at some point in the next 24 hours.
Oh, good God, good God. Hey, Camellia, did you watch that interview I posted with Elon Musk earlier?
I've been listening as you've been doing it on the show this morning. I haven't seen the whole thing aside from that, but
It's a little hot over there, huh? I feel a little like open the windows, get a little fresh air. Oh man, that was good stuff though. I mean, that's how you can. Oh, you were saying that you had just had a discussion with someone last night about like the power of silence.
right. So for my work with AFP, I've been in some training the last couple of days, and part of it is talking about relationship building and in working with people, and part of that are some principles that you take from sales and marketing. And just when you are talking, well, in any kind of conversation, we talked about the power of silence, and just letting that sit there, because most people feel like they have to fill that space with something, and so they'll they'll start saying things they might not have otherwise said, but they will want to fill that space. And I think the point you made about not feeling like you have to answer right away either, that it's okay to pause, to collect your thoughts, to respond, I think is also very good and really important.
Yeah, no, I agree too. It's most people really just think that a conversation is dying, or that people don't like uncomfortable silences. But sometimes there's more being said when things are unsaid than when things are, words are coming out of your mouth. you can learn a lot from body language. Some people struggle with it, and I didn't realize Elon Musk was such a master at it because he really seemed to jockey and play with this BBC reporter who, I think from what I've heard is reported, Elon Musk either has light Asperger's or a form of autism, but it didn't seem to inhibit him from being able to, walk this BBC reporter into a trap and turn it around. Elon Musk gets a lot of crap, and there are a lot of right wingers who don't even care for him. But and I know how you feel about him, but I want to just double and triple down on the fact that I really do think that he's one of us. Would you agree?
I do. And something else about that interview is that it is such a skill to be able to ask the right questions and to be able to turn that around like that by knowing what are the right questions to ask. And they tell you when you're talking in media or whatever, you get asked a question, and it's a question you really don't want to answer. You answer the question you want to be asked.
Yes.
And so I think that to a certain extent, that's what he did. And he not only did that, but he turned around and started asking the questions. And that is what completely threw that reporter off, because they're not used to that. Journalists are used to asking the questions, and they kind of feel like that's their right and their prerogative. That's their job, not your job. And so all of a sudden, when they're on the hot seat, it's a different story.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's inspiring to see him doing that. And I have so few heroes in this world, and I won't say that Elon Musk is necessarily my hero, but he's certainly competing for that status, because it can be really hard to find people that you can admire and look up to when it's so easy to see people's flaws these days, Camellia. It's even our favorite Hollywood celebrities. They used to be sort of shrouded in an air of mystery, but now that they're all posting on OnlyFans, we can see literally everything and know literally everything about them and interact with people that we would have never had a chance to talk to in before social media. But Elon Musk is one of those few people that I won't say he's bulletproof, because I think he's made some mistakes in the acquisition of Twitter to an extent. But I would say that of all the people in the world out there that are what I would consider a force for good, I think Elon is one of them.
Absolutely. And the thing that I really appreciate about him is that and this is how he's been successful, he's been willing to experiment and try things and admit when they don't work or admit when he's wrong. And that's something that's very unusual to see. And it's so easy for people to criticize the billionaires and the people like Elon, and so, like they have this so easy, and they just don't have no clue as to the enormity of the work that goes into reaching that point and what that takes. Like 99%, more than 99% of people in the world couldn't even begin to touch that level.
Yeah, no, I agree. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today, CJ?
Well, I would just say, go back to your Bible and know there's a time and a place for everything, a time to speak, a time to be silent. And so maybe that's our lesson for all of us today.
Turn, turn, turn. There is a season. Turn, turn, turn. Camellia, you rock. It's glad to see you back. First time since vacation. Nice to see you.
Good to be back. Yes.
Yeah, Stephanie and I picked up a special gift just for you. So we look forward to meeting you real soon and hopefully giving you your gift. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, guys. All right. What do you think of Camellia Peterson? Yeah, first time since we got back from vacation. I thought that was a great interview. Good stuff, right? Well, we got Daniella Pensac left to go. But before I do, what else have I got for you? NPR quits Twitter after being falsely labeled as state-affiliated media, reports NPR. Is it really a false label, though? We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Back to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Nice to see you here today. I've only got a couple of minutes in this segment because I've got 1 minute. Daniella Pensac is supposed to be joining us on the program here in just a minute. I did want to talk about the NPR thing, but unfortunately it looks like I'm not going to be able to get into it. I saw that our commenters were talking about how much revenue they get. It looks like about 4% of NPR's revenue comes from federal, state, and local governments. However, that's 4% too much of my taxpayer dollars to pay for my competition. That's media business. The government should not be competing against me. I should not have to be forced to pay my taxpayer dollars to a company that is competing against me directly. quickly. Talk about that a little bit later, but Daniella Pensac is going to join us here in a few minutes because we've got to talk about it. Bud Light has lost $4 billion in market share since the controversy exploded. Sit back, relax, have yourself a non-alcoholic beverage, and hang on while I get through this quick commercial break and I get Daniella Pensac on the line. We'll be right back.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the roaring 20s brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway.
I need help.
You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. My new conspiracy theory is that big con, big conservatism, big con is in bed, not with the Daily Wire. Big con, no, but not with big tech, but big con, come on, Austin, spit it out. Big con is in bed with Dylan Mulvaney. Is that kind of a weird or gross thing to say? I just realized that sounds kind of awkward. Yikes. No. They're not in bed with Dylan Mulvaney. I mean that they probably are working together to make themselves billions, because honestly, my feed is filled with influencers talking about conservative influencers talking nothing nonstop all day about Dylan Mulvaney. And I've been trying to avoid this subject. I didn't want to talk about it until my next guest pitched the topic and said, Austin, we should talk about it. And I realized, yeah, okay, probably it is news and we should talk about it. Joining me now on the line, bright and early in the morning from the West Coast to you, streamed live, is Daniella Pensac joining us now. Good morning, Daniella. How are you doing today?
Hey, good morning. I'm feeling great this morning. How are you since coming back from Japan?
Jet lag is a bitch. I did enjoy it, but I have not. I wake up every morning at like 2 a.m. and my wife and I just watch a little TV and then get productive. I actually cooked myself like a full 3-course breakfast this morning before the show because I had so much time because I couldn't sleep. But hopefully you're doing okay this morning. I know on the West Coast right now it's 8-7. What is it? 6:30 your time? 6:36 your time?
6:36 a.m. Yeah.
We appreciate you getting up bright and early. You look very bushy-tailed, Daniella, and we're glad to have you here. It's a little early to be drinking beer this morning, but we could certainly talk about it. Bud Light loses $4 billion worth of market share? What's this story?
I've seen some reports now this morning actually say $6 billion. So it is taking a free fall right now. Yeah, and it's good to see that people are actually voting with their wallets this time around. I just don't know how many times we have to teach organizations the same old lesson that, once you go woke, you really do go broke. And I don't think it's due to the fact that conservatives, I know certainly for myself, it's not because I hate trans people or anything like that. It's just like I'm sick and tired of, seeing the same messaging being shoved down our throats, due to every product. First it was M&Ms. We talked about that a few episodes ago. Now it's beer. I wonder what the next thing's going to be. Oh, we had it happen with I think chocolate bars too a few weeks ago. So it's just, I don't know why these companies just keep doing the same old thing. It doesn't do them any favors.
Yeah, no, I agree. And while I don't necessarily side with social conservatives in their views towards LGBTQ, I do agree with you that I'm sick and tired of having it shoved down my throat at every moment. Here's the thing. I don't think about my sexuality 24 hours a day. And I'm certainly not thinking about your sexuality 24 hours a day. I have more important things to do with my life. But it's like, because identity politics mixed up with gender politics necessitates a discussion of sexuality. They're forcing us to have these discussions about personal private behavior that aren't the kind of things that you need to be having public discussions about every single day. But it really is. I think it goes back. The core of this is identity politics. Would you agree? Disagree? How do you feel?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's just a really cheap marketing tactic. It's just a way, I don't know. I was thinking what the CEO was really thinking about this, because they're just pandering to a very small demographic of people. So I don't really see how when they had Dylan Mulvaney on their beer can. So I don't really see even how they would make money off of this. But yeah, it's introducing, social conservatives would call it a social contagion. They're introducing this idea in their marketing tactics, and it just it makes you think how if they're trying to change the social conversation, and if they're really a part of this grander conspiracy. I personally don't think so. I think it's just CEOs making very poor mistakes. But it does beg to question, why are they constantly trying to introduce this in movies and candy and beer, and it's going down to the food we eat and drink, and that's just really silly to me.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Peterson, speaking to Daniella Pensac. Nelson65 over on Rumble says, hello, Daniella. Glad to have you here, Nelson. Thanks so much for joining us on the stream over at Rumble or on YouTube. If you're watching us there, make sure you click like on that stream so that we can spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. What's funny about the whole sexuality thing is that I was never really turned on or cared about the alcohol, the beer ads when it was the opposite tack, when the sexuality they were promoting was, you know, straight male heterosexuality. They had like the females with lingerie models, or like, you know, bikini models doing beer commercials and things like that, because it just it's pandering to a demographic of that I just am not a part of, right? Because I don't look at beer. I never looked at, even when I was a young guy, I wasn't like, oh man, there's a hot girl in a beer ad, I definitely am going to go, well, hopefully drink this beer one day when I'm old enough or whatever. So it never worked on me, even when it was a straight thing. But you know, they did play up sexuality when it was a straight thing back in the day, and now they're playing it in the opposite tack. And of course, everybody has a problem with this. But the thing is that in terms of advertising, you have to, at the end of the day, your job is to sell. And if your tactics don't sell, or worse yet, induce a boycott, you've failed marketing 101, no matter what your strategy or politics are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is that they when they put Dylan Mulvaney on their beer cans, who are they really trying to attract to drink their beer? Again, the trans population is still very small, although that number is growing every day. But regardless, it's still a very small population, and it just makes me wonder, why are they trying to pander to this demographic of people? Maybe they thought it was cool to do so. As people say, you know, being trans is now, it's the new emo or goth for young kids. So maybe they're trying to appear cool, but it really backfired on them, and it's really good to see that. It's I just hope that this will teach organizations in the future, and companies, that people just want to enjoy the product without being preached to. Again, I think this has less to do with the fact that, you know, they say like, oh, people don't like trans, or conservatives don't like trans people. It has less to do with that. It's more to do with the fact that we just don't like being preached to. We just want to consume the product mindlessly, and we want to enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I like that you added that term in there, Daniela. Let's give her a round of applause. Mindlessly, yes. The very epitome of beer drinking. Their market likes the Swedish bikini team, says Elizabeth Press. That is true. Completely agree with you. Yeah, Swedish bikini team for the win, Chris Morrell. I say, I'm sorry that I had to take you down this road, this conversation this morning, Danielle. I know it's a little bit early to talk about bikinis and beer, but you know, we must give the people what they want, apparently. Well, what they've lost in market share is, you know, possibly could be restored. I saw Joe Rogan on his show last night was drinking Bud Light amid this, what he calls this goofy backlash. He says that he did like Kid Rock's video because he loves that kind of thinking, not even if he agrees with it, just that he likes wild people raising hell. So, you know, I guess I can understand that too. It was fun to watch him blowing away, you know, a bunch of beer. But at the end of the day, I still feel like people are getting, like, it's the public that's getting played, because I do think that, you know, and my conspiracy theory is partially real, that a lot of conservative influencers, come on, Daniela, they can't shut up about this guy. Am I wrong?
No, I agree with you. It is kind of silly, the outrage this has sparked, but I think it all plays into the same media circuit. Bud Light gets attention, even though it's negative, it still gets attention. And then the conservative outlets that do want to make this into a bigger issue than it is are getting popularity from this as well. So I think it all does just plays into each other. But nonetheless, it is a little bit entertaining to watch. But I would agree. You see, personally, I didn't care about who Dylan Mulvaney was prior to this. I knew who they were, but I didn't care. And I have no problem with people doing what they want, you know, in their own free time. But again, when they put it on products, it's just super annoying. And it's like, you know, we all have that collective groan. It's like, well, here we go again. We can't enjoy a product without getting preached to.
It's
But
cringe.
yeah,
It's cringe.
absolutely cringe. But yeah, I would agree that conservatives are kind of making this a bigger deal than it is. But it's all in the name of entertainment.
It is. And maybe I shouldn't make the joke that's coming to my mind when I think about all those German beers that I drink with all the Catholic priests on them and sucking a beer down. I don't know. I'll just move on and try not to defend the right for once for one day. Let's move on to this next story that you brought to my attention, Daniela, about this. We talked about this earlier. I actually showed this clip. So this Target shopper, so the audience should know if they were watching us earlier, but just very briefly, I'll summarize. So a Target shopper has $1,000 worth of goods. She demands reparations, but apparently she wanted to get all of her stuff for free. She cornered a security guard in his office, and then she got punched in the face. Then she was arrested. Was she in the wrong? Was she in the right? What's your analysis of this story, Daniela?
Yeah, people really talk about, or you had that man ask Elon Musk if there's spreading of dangerous rhetoric going on in social media. I think the real dangerous rhetoric is this conversation about reparations. The more you preach about this topic over and over again, it's giving minorities the wrong idea, or at least a small portion of them, and then they're going to believe that it's totally permissible for them to go into a store and demand that they get free products. And that's what happens, is that they're going to get knocked out for it. Do I think for all we know, the woman could have had a knife, she could have had a gun. I think the man was in his right to defend himself and keep her away from the store because she was posing a threat to other people. We don't know what her mental stability or what weaponry she had. So it is an unfortunate situation, but hopefully, it taught her a lesson, but probably not, because in the article that I've seen, she said this was her Rosa Parks moment. So, but last I checked, Rosa Parks did actually pay for a bus ticket. So I don't know. I just hope this taught her a valuable lesson that you can't just demand products like that.
Can we get an applause here for Daniella Pensac? She has a master's degree after all. She is a very smart cookie. That's why we bring her here on the Wake Up America show. I'd like to say one day that we discovered Daniella Pensac when she goes on to become a big, huge Fox News contributor, Turning Point USA field coordinator at the moment. But I know that even bigger and better things are in her future. Daniella, one last thing before I let you go on this one. You talked about the toxicity of the push for reparations. Talk a little bit about more about that mindset, because I happen to agree with you. I think that this push for reparations has poisoned the minds of millions of people here in the United States, and it could. I mean, when you see like like that bank shooting and the transgender shooting and all this violence, I mean, people have a right to be worried about dangerous ideologies spilling into the real world and causing violence.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is this like overwhelming sense of entitlement that we are seeing with certain demographics of people, whether, minorities generally, because we are trying to correct the wrongs of the past. And even though that I would say is noble, it's a noble attempt, it's not going to make anything better. I really do think it's going to make things worse. People are just going to get more entitled. We're seeing the younger generations getting more entitled in what they expect. And it really is a dangerous rhetoric, because you're going to see more and more instances of people demanding that whether they get reparations, free products, or they're supposed to be seen and heard in the way exactly that they want, even if the pronouns they want to be used are completely fabricated and doesn't exist in English language. So I do think there is a problem with that. Do I think that we should silence speech for that? Absolutely not. Uh, the First Amendment is always first for me. I don't think we should muzzle people, but at the same time, people should expect to learn lessons when they demand things from other individuals. They're going to get knocked out sometimes, and they're going to be told to shut up. I just advise people just to stay strapped, and that's the way that we can defend ourselves against some very entitled people out there.
Yeah, that security guard didn't even need to stay strapped that day. He probably been wise to do so, but I'm glad that at least if it had to be handled violently, that it didn't end in anybody's death. So, Daniella, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
I say that, as far as the the Bud Light thing topic, I wanted to touch back onto that. I think that I'm really glad to see people voting with their wallet. That's the purpose of the free market. And I encourage people to continue doing what they're doing. Just yesterday, I saw the Mario movie, and I was told that, oh, this movie, there's no woke messaging. It's really much enjoyable. And so I went to go see it. And that's exactly what it was. It was just a very pure form of mindless entertainment. There was no woke messaging. I felt like I could enjoy it. And I just hope in the future we get more products like that.
Camellia Peterson over on the live stream echoes, I'm sure, all of our sentiments and speaks for all of us when she says, "Love Daniella." LOL. Daniella, you always do a great job. Thanks for getting
Thank you.
so early over there on the West Coast and joining us. You always do a terrific job. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniella Pensac. What do you think? Let's give her a round of applause. What do you say, huh? Isn't she fantastic? I gotta say, The Wake Up America show's got the best guests, Camellia Peterson, Daniella Pensac, and of course, the best host. When I get back, who's more libertarian? Or what is more libertarian? Because we can't talk about people. We anthropomorphize pets, I think, too much. Dogs or libertarians? Dogs or cats? Austin, what the hell's wrong with you? Dogs or cats? Which pet is more libertarian? Yesterday I did cats. I made the argument for cats today. I make the argument for dogs. Who let the dogs out? We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3...
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Man, I'm kind of beat, honestly. I don't think it's just the jet lag. I gotta say, today's show, I feel, has just been absolutely killer. I'm If you missed it, you could definitely want to go back and watch this stream at the very beginning because it was absolutely killer. I felt really good about that discussion. I think we learned a lot. A lot of that stuff I didn't know until yesterday, the economics of OnlyFans. Make sure you go back and listen to that if you missed it. And then the interview with Camellia was so good, and then followed up with Daniella Pensac. I mean, I'm just feeling all kinds of positive vibes today. We also got a couple of nice super chats, and I'm super grateful for you for that. Also, just this shirt, the OO government shirt, I guess it's because it's tax season. Everybody's been loving it, hating the government, but check it out over at apforlibertyshop.com. It's for men and women's unisex. The OO government shirt, you can find it over at apforlibertyshop.com. Head over there. Well, you can do it right now if you like while you're listening to me in the background, but at least definitely after the show, get yourself one. Remember, it's all free shipping, and if you're at apforlibertyshop.com, you're going to see at the top of the website the AK-47 giveaway. I'm not talking about a keychain here. I'm talking about a full-length battle rifle that I'm giving away at the end of this month. Yes. Oh, yeah. The kind of gun that Joe Biden and Democrats and some Republicans don't want you to have. I'll be giving away for free to one of my email subscribers. If you've purchased from the AP for Liberty shop, if you are a monthly subscriber, or if you're on my email list for whatever reason, you're already entered to win. But if you are not, and you want to make sure you get an entry, head over to apforlibertyshop.com, drop your free entry, your email address at the very top, or just buy an OO government shirt or an OO taxes shirt. We've got that as well as an OO PSYOP shirt. So head over to apforlibertyshop.com, get yourself a product, and if you do, you're automatically entered to win if you make a purchase. So there you go. How about a free AK-47? What say you? Only time in my life I've been able to say that I can write a gun purchase off of my taxes. All right, cool. So last topic before we go. Okay, so what did Andy Hoffman say? I caught his comment. He says, AP for Liberty, OO government shirt is not marketing to the same demographic as Bud with that model. She really just wanted to wear that shirt. What can I say? You know, it's sometimes I have to go find marketing. Sometimes marketing comes to me. All right, Mara, let's go. Before we go, one last story. All right, cats are libertarians or dogs are libertarians? Which ones are more libertarians or which ones not? Dogs are more libertarians than cats today. Can you give it up for my dog people today? Yeah, we want to hear from you. I really like this argument in the negative on this for dogs, in favor of dogs, excuse me. Peter Suderman writes that to imagine that cats are more libertarian than dogs is to commit a fundamental error by assigning libertarian values to an animal's generalized character and behavior. Boy, that is quite a sentence there. Very, based and red-pilled. It may well be true that cats are more independent-minded than dogs, that they follow fewer rules and orders, that they have an anarchic streak. But when determining whether cats or dogs are more libertarian creatures, the behavior of the animal on its own is irrelevant. Whoa, wow. That's quite a statement. The libertarian project is the project of human civilization and human liberty. A world with fewer anarchic cats, or even for that matter, no cats at all, and far greater human freedom would obviously be a far more libertarian world. That's a good point there. The question is then, whether cats or dogs contribute more to liberty. Framed that way, the answer is clear. Dogs have been an agent of choice and freedom for thousands of years. Humanity is happier, safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful because of dogs. Completely agree. Humans have lived with dogs for nearly 40,000 years. Not only were dogs the first domesticated animals, but some scholars believe they were the key to letting our ancestors outcompete and outlast Neanderthal rivals. In a 2012 essay for American scientist, Pat Lee Shipman argued, dog domestication gave prehistoric people a critical advantage, helping them hunt, particularly large mammoths, and maybe even helped them bring meat back to the camp. Ever since, dogs and human beings have evolved together in a mutually beneficial bond. They helped our ancestors kill big game, and now we provide them with food in exchange for companionship. But that dogs are companions is not a small matter. Research shows that dog owners are less lonely, have fewer mental health issues, and get more exercise Today's dogs may not help hunters strike down mammoths, but they are clearly good for human physical and mental health. Unlike cats, dogs have a clear bias towards private property and self-defense. Neighborhoods with more dogs are safer, in part because of people walking the streets with dogs. Dogs are protectors of property, and ownership facilitates a sort of private security network. No police needed. Dogs also help with human sociability. Anyone who's ever lived on a block with a large number of dogs know that dog owners get to know each other merely because their dogs want to meet. Dogs are ambassadors and intermediaries. They make the always awkward but important business of getting to know strangers easier. They build trust beyond households and kin networks, which is the key to a peaceful civilization, trade, and mass prosperity. Dogs aren't just our best friends. They are our natural allies in the fight for a more libertarian world. Give it up. Give it up. Now, I try not to pat myself on the back too much, but I got to say, I think today's show was exceptional. Just beginning to end, one of the absolute best Wake Up America shows that we've done in a long time. Would you agree? Would you agree? Then drop a super chat before you leave. What do you say? $2 or $3 in the tip jar, sir, please. Please, sir, could I have some more? If you don't ask, you don't get. $2, $3, $4, $5, $10. Love it if you could help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty by making a donation today. I think you can also do that over on Rumble as well. I'm not entirely certain. Do want to give a big shout out to all my Rumblers this morning, because sometimes I'm looking at Rumble and there's more people on Rumble than there are on YouTube. It's awesome. Loving Rumble these days. Thanks for being so kind to us. It was nice to meet Nelson today, who was our lone commenter over there, but we did have a lot of people lurking. They're just getting to know me. They don't know who AP is. They don't know. I'm the type of person that is kind of like, when you first meet me, you're like, what the hell is this guy all about? And then after you warm up to me, then typically you like me a little bit more. So hopefully you'll come back and watch the show again another time. Thank you so much to the Cantina crew. Mwah, Tolly Owens. Mwah, Camellia Peterson. Mwah, Chris Morrill. Mwah, Sarah and Jose Palacios. Mwah, Robbie Thurman. Mwah, Quest Fanning. All my friends, love you very much. You guys are the best. Tomorrow's Family Friday. That means that the lovely Stephanie Peterson, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian girl, will be joining me tomorrow on the set. You don't want to miss it. The Wake Up America show. Every single day, you got to watch the show. Watch the show. See you tomorrow at wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.